Welcome to Diversion in it. So today we have with us Logan. So us giving an introduction would not suffice the work he has done. So I would let him introduce himself. So hey Logan, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited. I think hopefully folks have some interesting questions and as they come up over the course of the conversation.
All right, that's great. So can you please tell me more about yourself, like about your journey, like how you have been and from college till getting into Apple, then becoming the developer community advocate at Julia. So yep.
Yeah, anywhere specific that you want me to start, or just the
Anywhere, wherever
whole?
you feel like whether it's from, like you can even begin from your college life, and then you can say like why you have chosen this Julia as Julia, why you became the, sorry, like how you became the get into Apple, then into Julia, like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's a great question. So when I started undergrad, I actually started working at the Apple Store at the same time. So in 2016, when I was beginning college, I started a part-time job at the Apple Store, and that ultimately ended up sort of leading to meeting the right people, getting the right sort of practical Apple experience to actually go back, do an internship, which ultimately led to my full-time role there. So that was a super interesting experience, and happy to answer questions about that. But sort of also in parallel to that, after I think it was around 2017, 2018, started interning at NASA, which is where I actually ended up learning Julia. So the team that I joined at NASA happened to be using Julia for the specific problems that we were trying to solve. So it was a really unique opportunity. And again, happy to answer questions about that as well.
Like you came to know about Julia from NASA, right? Like you were
Yeah,
interning at NASA. All right,
exactly.
great.
So the team, I had never heard of Julia before, and the team that I joined was using Julia for the specific project. So I really had to sort of get my hands dirty, learn everything about the language, and that sort of led me to getting more involved in the community over time and contributing and all those sort of things.
All right, great. Yep. So Deeptendu, over to you, man. Yeah.
So there are a lot of other languages, right? Like Python and stuff. There are older languages. So why do you prefer a new language like Julia? I have heard a lot of opinion on the internet, like it is fast and stuff. But what is your opinion about the language? I really wanted to know that.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I think what I tell a lot of people is, the reason for most folks to use Julia in a professional setting is they've sort of reached the limits of one of the other tools computationally. And what that actually means in a real world case is, let's go back to the example of the team that I was on at NASA. We were using something called POMDP, Partially Observable Markov Decision Process, which is basically a framework of representing real world environments where you can take into account the environment and then a set of actions that a individual or a agent might take. It's sort of decision making under uncertainty at its purest form, and to actually solve those decision making under uncertainty problems is extremely computationally intensive, because you do all these sort of random simulations. And again, when you're trying to find an optimal solution, it takes a lot of computational power. So the team that I was on had chose to use Julia to solve this problem. And it's interesting because if we hadn't have used Julia on this project, the time it would have taken to do some of these computational simulations would have been like, a few orders of magnitude longer. It could have been like, our simulations would take an hour some days to run. And if we weren't using Julia, it would have taken like a day to run. So that's, from a professional setting, to that's like the biggest reason why, like as an engineer, I don't want to spend my time sitting there waiting for these simulations to run. I want to get those results back so that I can iterate quickly, shorten the innovation cycle, all those sort of things. And I think that was the initial motivation for me and for the team to use Julia. And I think now, as I've used the language for a few more years, I have all these other reasons that I really like it, and I think it's better than some other of the tools out there. But that was definitely the starting point for me.
So when you're starting out when you're using Julia now, that was like not 1.0 release, right? That was before 1.0 release, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Yeah, that was when I started using Julia at NASA, it was everything was written in Julia 0.6. So the 0.7 release was actually basically the same as the 1.0 release. The only difference was the 0.7 release had deprecation warnings versus the 1.0 release did not. So if you just switched your code to 1.0, everything would have stopped working versus the 0.7 was sort of the segue to 1.0. So it got to transition through all of that and help rewrite some of the code to work with the new version of the language, which was, again, super important in the sort of history of Julia and all that sort of stuff.
All right. That's what that was a great answer actually. So yeah, my next question is like, why would someone like to switch from Python to Julia? Like, if let's say someone is learning machine learning in Python, so why would someone would do that? Someone would switch from Python to Julia. So
yeah,
yeah.
No, that's a great question. So, one of the reasons could be stuff related to speed. So again, using Julia, you see those, sort of order of magnitude speed improvements, but that's really just one part of the equation. I think in the context of machine learning, actually, one of the really interesting things that folks might not necessarily think about unless it sort of comes up in a conversation, but a lot of the really popular Python machine learning libraries are really just C++ libraries that have a Python wrapper, like PyTorch and TensorFlow. If you go and look at the actual code repository for those machine learning frameworks, those are not Python. They're not written in Python. They're written in C++, and they happen to have a wrapper of Python on top of it. So for me, as a machine learning engineer, if I really want to go and understand sort of under the hood what's happening in PyTorch or TensorFlow, I not only need to have the domain expertise in machine learning and Python, I also need to understand C++, which I really don't. I don't do any C++ development, so I'd have to go and learn something completely new. And Julia, just from a machine learning standpoint, is really nice because all of the machine learning packages and frameworks are 100% Julia. So if you understand sort of the basic syntax of the language and sort of the constructs of the ecosystem, you can go in and look at a machine learning framework like Flux or KNet or MLJ, and they're all 100% Julia. So it's, again, for me as an engineer, if I really want to understand, what does back propagation look like under the hood, I can go and look at that code and really understand it, and then make my own implementation of it because I can just borrow the code basically. So I think that's one of the reasons why in the context of machine learning it might make sense to use something like Julia.
Right. Great.
So I just want to follow up on that. Like, for the context of machine learning, we can use Julia. For any other, like Python is a very good scripting language. Should Julia replace Python as a scripting language, or like should you see Julia as a kind of computer? Like, should you use Julia for any kind of computation intensive task or something?
Yeah. So I think I'll make 2 points. One is I think that Julia will not necessarily replace Python. I think there's certain contexts where people who are using Python right now will sort of naturally migrate to using Julia. I do think that Python has such a massive and robust ecosystem that it's unlikely that sort of Julia will rise to the same level as Python just because it's the most popular programming language in the world. But sort of depending, you want to say your question one more time for me, just so I can make sure I specifically answer the right part of it.
We use Python for scripting things, right? So Python is very good as a scripting language. And Julia will replace Python as a scripting language, or will Julia be used as for any kind of computation intensive task or something?
Yeah, so that's I would say one of the cool things about Julia is that it is a general purpose programming language. So you could do both things. If you want to do like traditional scripting like tasks that you would do in Python, you could 100% do those things in Julia. If you want to do hardcore, machine learning stuff, you can also 100% do that in Julia. So it is general purpose in that nature. It's not, it excels at things that are really data and computationally intensive, but it works for anything. You could build games, you could do web development stuff. So it does it all.
All right. That was a great answer. So yeah, you talked about machine learning. Can you just tell me like what value does Julia add to deep learning? Like what exact value does it add in deep learning?
Yeah, so for deep learning, I think probably the biggest value add, there's probably two things. One of which is, so flux.jl is Julia's deep learning package, and flux.jl, everything can be differentiated, like the whole stack of code can be differentiated. And I'm not I sort of have expertise in like the applied part of machine learning, so I don't have all the sort of background details of automatic differentiation and how it brings all these benefits. But I know that's one of the important pieces that differs from a language like PyTorch or a framework like PyTorch or TensorFlow or even JAX, which is another one of Google's machine learning frameworks. Those packages, the code that's produced is not 100% able to be automatically differentiated. And Julia's stack is able to do that, which brings all these interesting benefits. And again, I won't bore you with trying to explain it, but just look up what the benefit of automatic differentiation is in machine learning. And there's some good articles out there, but that's one of the big pieces. I'm trying to think if there's any other interesting pieces for deep learning. I think the only other piece that I'll add in the context of deep learning is, and again, I don't know if this is a relevant thing for folks in this crowd, just because it's more of like a niche, more of a niche community, but scientific machine learning is actually one of the areas where Julia excels the most in the context of machine learning. And what that is really the combination of hard sciences with machine learning. So people use things like neural ordinary differential equations, which is sort of the intersection of differential equations work and deep learning and machine learning. And there's a bunch of packages in the Julia ecosystem that are sort of world-class, state-of-the-art for some of these very specific scientific machine learning tasks, which again, unless you're doing that research, you probably haven't taken a class, and I really don't understand right now either, just because I don't do that work either. But I know it's, I'm always seeing things and reading papers that those folks are putting out. So lots of really interesting stuff. Again, if you're interested in those two intersections, it could be something cool to check out.
Cool.
Yes, Kilpatrick has done a lot of important work in like neural ODs and stuff. The whole Skyrim ecosystem is amazing. Hello, I'm audible.
Your audio was cutting out right at the beginning. Can you say it one more time?
Okay. I'm just saying, like, Chris Rakokas has done a lot of good work in like SkyML and stuff, like in neural ODs, and like the libraries are like totally awesome. I've tried some of those. I don't totally understand all of it, but those are awesome. I've seen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Anything for folks who aren't familiar with the Julia ecosystem, Chris Rakokas is one of these sort of core pillars of the community, and he's done a bunch of incredible work in the SciML ecosystem. And yeah, totally agree. I've played around with some of the stuff, but really don't sort of grasp the beauty and the real depth that some of the work that he's done provides.
Right.
So just a minute. I just wanted to say, like, let's say I don't want to do automatic differentiation. I don't want the like custom stuff. I want to do just simple ImageNet and stuff. Will Julia be better or Python will be better for that? Like, can you just can you give me like proper idea of that? Like, someone starting with machine learning, should they go with Julia, or like for any kind of
or move to Power, start with Python?
Yeah. It's a good question. So I think it really depends on who you are and what your end goal is. If your end goal is, hey, I want to spin up a, machine learning example use case in the shortest amount of time with the shortest amount of work, the shortest amount of time and work is probably PyTorch right now, would be my sense of it. Yeah, so I do think, so the challenge for us is that the, frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, JAX, those aren't true open source projects. Like the people who work on those projects are Google engineers or Facebook engineers getting paid a bunch of money to work full time. And if you compare that and contrast that against Flux, which is Julia's deep learning package, it's a bunch of PhD students, people who are hobbyists, people who are really interested in this stuff. So it's a really difficult sort of battle for us to get Flux to where we want it to be without sort of millions and millions and millions of dollars, which is what Google and Facebook are pumping into these machine learning frameworks. Though, again, I think in general, PyTorch is probably the better choice for machine learning right now, but there's definitely some specific use cases where Flux and Julia for machine learning makes the most sense, just because, state-of-the-art results can be produced in that, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to get those in PyTorch, for example. But I also use, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Like, if we want to do a custom thing, then Julia is a better one, right?
Yeah, and again, custom, it really depends what you mean by custom. Like I use PyTorch every day at work, and I do maybe some quote unquote custom stuff that I still think it would be easier to do that using PyTorch versus Flux. So, and it's not even that it's more work to do it in Flux. It's that less people use Flux right now, so the resources are a little bit more sparse. Like I think no matter what I type in, I can basically find out how to do any type of machine learning on any type of data set in PyTorch, because there's so many users, and it's not the same. Like if you have some obscure data set or some type of data and you're trying to do something weird in PyTorch, somebody else probably has tried to do it before, or there's a large enough community where folks will be able to help you get it done, whatever you're trying to do. And again, I don't necessarily think that's the case in Flux.
It will be in some years, I believe.
I mean, I totally agree. And again, I spend a lot of my free time sort of trying to help them get to the point where they have the sort of tools and ecosystem and tutorials and all that stuff. So I always tell students, it's a great opportunity to sort of try using a framework like Flux, see where the rough edges are, write about it in a blog post, and be somebody who sort of contributes to that ecosystem and the development. So it's a cool opportunity.
Cool. All right. So I just had this question that let's say, what are the opportunities are there outside as a Julia developer? Like, what are the some kind of internship opportunities, or something like that? Like, what are the opportunities we have? Like, if I am a Julia developer.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of cool things that are happening right now. So there's two different pieces that I want to suggest. So the first, at a really high level, one of the big opportunities about using Julia is really being able to get your hands dirty contributing to an ecosystem and have the work that you do actually have an impact. I think one of the challenges that I have with the sort of Python ecosystem is that, there's 100 million Python developers or something like that worldwide, and there's all these people creating content, resources, contributing, and it's really hard to sort of stand out in this really vast ecosystem. And I think that that's not the case with the Julia ecosystem. I think from my experience, I just came in, started making sort of I don't want to say mediocre contributions, but the stuff that I did was nothing incredible or special. I just showed up and did the work, and was able to become sort of a core member of the Julia community. And I think, again, that's sort of the experience that I've seen with other students as well. Like people, I was a student when I started doing all this work, and we see this with our Google Summer of Code students. So Julia is a part of Google Summer of Code every year, Google Season of Docs. We also supplement our Google Summer of Code by paying students directly. So that's another opportunity. It sort of runs in parallel to Google Summer of Code and all that. But again, we support more students every year. And it's not just, so I'm a Google Summer of Code admin for the Julia project, but also through Julia's, used at a bunch of different organizations. So Focus is one of the organizations where there's other Julia projects. So that's where Flux, SciML, and Grid App, and a few of these other Julia projects all live under the Focus umbrella. So there's lots of opportunities, especially for Google Summer of Code. If you're interested in that, I would highly suggest getting involved with Julia and the ecosystem as soon as possible. Start making contributions. The students who get selected every year are always the students who have made some contribution already. And I think now is the perfect time to do that.
Cool. Yeah. That was pretty impressive. Yeah, I just want to take like I went through the documentation of Julia, right? So there I came across with one thing near something known as Julia Computing. So can you tell me what is Julia Computing?
Yeah, so Julia Computing is an organization created by some of the founders of Julia. So the open source project is, again, completely open source, and it's part of the nonprofit Num Focus. And then Julia Computing is a for-profit entity, which, again, the creators of the language founded to build tools and services and things like that on top of Julia, which they sell and use to make money. So basically, it's a way for them to take something that was their hobby and their sort of pet project and actually make it a business so that they can feed their families and things like that. So it's very cool. A lot of the folks at Julia Computing still do core Julia open source development work. So a lot of the really interesting technical stuff still comes from Julia Computing, but it doesn't,
Mhm.
the sort of benefits aren't just for Julia Computing. They're helping the whole ecosystem, which is awesome.
Yep, cool.
So I have seen one thing, one trend in like Julia users, like most of the Julia users I have seen like tend to contribute to Julia or like some packages of Julia. Is like, how does it even happen? Like I have not seen that in other like other languages. Like I have used Python like a lot during my BTech year, during my BTech. But I have like contributed to Julia like 2 to 3 times maybe. But how does it happen? Like, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so yeah, this is a really good question. I think, and I'm actually in the same boat as you. I've been programming Python for 6 or 7 years, and I don't think I've ever made a contribution to a Python package before. Maybe like 1 or 2 times over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, but it's definitely not the same sort of setup as the Julia committee. I think the from my understanding, the reason that so many folks contribute, one, it's just a smaller ecosystem right now, so folks feel more invested, like they actually like, in Python, in the Python community, you're again sort of just a cog in the sort of overall community, and you don't really feel any ownership of the sort of success of the ecosystem. And again, I think people in the Julia community sort of feel like they're part of something and they want to contribute. But also from a technical perspective, I think the lines between a user and a contributor in Julia it's a really thin line. Like you can honestly, if you've used Julia, a few times and read the documentation, you can really start to see, okay, here's how I would contribute. Here's where this code is doing this idea, and here's how I can improve it. Like it's really not a difficult jump to become a contributor, which is why, again, I think so many people do make that jump. But I will know that there are definitely a lot of folks who use Julia who do not who don't contribute anything. I think that's totally fine. Like that's a very sort of traditional way of using a programming language, and that's totally cool. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of folks who are making those contributions, which is awesome.
So like many of the students have joined today, like want to know more about Julia Summer of Code, GSOC, what is like the criteria and how to contribute to it and learn more about the language and stuff. Can you just
Yeah, so yeah, we have a bunch of resources on our website. So if you go to julialang.org, there's a tab that says JSOC, which stands for Julia's Season of Contributions. And under that, we have all the Google Summer of Code information, expectations, things like that. So 100% would check that out. Again, it's nothing crazy. It's the same requirements as normal Google Summer of Code. But we, again, highly suggest getting involved in language, start making contributions, open PRs, talk to the community, all those sort of things, because again, from an admin, from a mentor perspective, there needs to be some evidence that you can actually do the work. If we choose you for Google Summer of Code, you're going to come in and actually be able to do the work. And there's no better way to show that than actually having a Julia contribution or two already sort of under your belt. And being able to point to that in the application. So definitely get involved, and also feel free to ping me if you're interested and don't sort of know where to start, and you read all the resources. Shoot me a message on Slack or Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever it is.
All right. Yeah, I just like I went through the Julia Lang like repository, right? That project I went through. I saw that the the most part of the project, it is like written in Julia. Like why Julia is written in Julia? Please answer in.
Yeah, that's an interesting, just a technical caveat. I think the language itself, because of it's a compiled language, so it can be written in Julia itself. But under the hood, the real, it still has like C embeddings.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
written on top of C, and I think there's some other lower level stuff in there as well. But yeah, I think that's again the blurred line between being a user and contributor. I can go into the core Julia repository and actually understand, to some extent at least, what's going on, which I think is really cool and very different and unique from other languages. Like I don't have any experience in sort of programming language design, but I can go in and understand how to do, a small core Julia contribution, which I think is super neat, and sort of gives me that motivation to, like, I want to continue to learn so that I can eventually make
Contribute.
those contributions. Yeah, it's
Actually,
cool.
yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So just another thing like that I want to ask is, like I have not only for Julia, I have also seen for Go as well. I also checked out their repository and their projects as well. They're also like the most of the part is written in that language. Like most of the projects are written in Go, for Go. So like what are the advantage you get by writing the language, like when you're writing the basic structure of the programming language, writing in that same language only, right? So what are the main advantages for that?
Yeah, I think this just goes back to the blurred lines of being a contributor. I think if the language itself is written in the language that you want to use, then some user who's just, again, learning the basics of the language can understand, oh, here's how the language is actually designed. Oh, here's
Mhm.
how, here's why they're doing X, Y, and Z. And it gives people the flexibility to not have to learn a bunch of C and C++ and, maybe even assembly, God forbid. So it's definitely gives you that flexibility. So I think that's the core tech. It might also have something to do with compiled languages. I don't know anything about Go, but maybe that has something to do with it as well.
All right. So, yep, Deeptin, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say, like, every time like a new Julia language or a new version of Julia comes up, it comes with some sort of benchmarks that, like, somehow this somehow gets better every time, the speed and stuff. Like, how come this, like, the language that has existed for so many years, like Python is very old, right? So how come they're not able to get the speed which Julia gets? Like, is it some design pattern or something? Like,
so there's two parts to this. One of the parts is that languages like Python have actually been around for a long, like Python's 30 something years old. So they've sort of done the quick and dirty optimizations that they can do. They did those in like 2000 before we were even born or something like that. So that's the reality of a language like Python. They've sort of already done that work to get to the point where they're at now. The other piece is that, yeah, you hit it on the head, that there are a bunch of design decisions that the Julia creators made, which actually make it so that the language has this speed as sort of a core pillar. And there's also a lot of really interesting, what I would consider to be state-of-the-art work that's happening like on the Julia internals itself. So there's a bunch of people who work on the development of LLVM, which is Julia's compiler, which is an open source project used by a bunch of languages and tools. So there's folks who work on LLVM who also work on Julia and sort of figuring out sort of the best way of using it to optimize the speed and compile times and things like that. So it's definitely those two pieces. It's the intentional design decision to make Julia fast, and give it the ability to expand over time and continue to get faster. And also sort of the fact that it's just not as old and mature as a language like Python yet. But there's a lot of really smart, I think the smartest people that I know are working on making Julia faster, which is just, again, super cool to me. I think I'm always super impressed as well. Like, I think the Julia 1.8 release, which is coming out, there's like 25% speed improvements in some places. And I'm just like, I don't know how they just keep pulling the rabbit out of the hat every time a new Julia release comes out. It's awesome.
I think 1.8, they already made a beta release, right? I think
Yeah, they did. The 1.8 release is in beta 100%. So folks can, I think I downloaded it. I didn't see any crazy speed improvements just because I wasn't actually using it to do anything yet. But yeah, it's definitely, it'll be cool to see where those speed improvements actually materialize.
so.
I think we lost Arnab.
Okay, I think he will join in a minute or so. I think he's having some internet issue or something. So I just wanted to say, like, what are your thoughts on Pluto Gel and this notebook things that come up that is like changing the view how we use notebooks? Like, there are a lot of notebooks in. I am sure like people who use Python use like Jupyter notebooks or something or any kind of spin-off, right? Like that. But Pluto Gel is changing the thing. Like, when it is totally interactive. It's totally intuitive and thing like completely reproducible and stuff. So what are your views on Pluto Gel? Like, have you used it and stuff?
Yeah, I think Pluto JL is awesome. And for folks who aren't familiar with Pluto, so in a traditional Jupyter notebook, you would actually like run each cell of the notebook sort of independently almost. And you could sort of run them in a nondescript order. It doesn't really matter. So that's sort of the sort of workflow that you would use for a Jupyter notebook. In the context of Pluto, Pluto, all of the notebooks, the sort of all the cells in the notebook are sort of connected together. So as soon as you change one of the values in one of the notebooks, in one of the cells of the notebook, it automatically recompiles or recomputes the output of every single cell in the entire notebook, which is really interesting. So my personal opinion is that I wish that Pluto had the ability to do both things, because I really, again, from a machine learning context, like I'm in the position where, maybe one of the cells in my notebook goes and retrains the model and does this thing. So if I change one little piece down there, I don't want sort of everything to have to sort of reactively change again, because then I'm going to wait an hour for this model to train again. I'd prefer that things sort of, it sort of gave me the flexibility to do what I wanted. I know that that's something that people have asked the Pluto folks for, and they said that they weren't necessarily interested in doing that right now, but hopefully, in the future, they do take advantage of that, because I just, to me, people are too familiar with the way that Jupyter notebooks work and that workflow for them to totally get rid of that and make it sort of the reactive implementation.
I think Pluto is still in its early stages. Like, with years, we'll see more adoption and more improvement coming in Pluto.
Yeah, I agree. It's also a small project right now. I think there's like a few core folks who are actually working on the development. I think that the Jupyter community is massive, and they have, again, institutional backing from colleges like Cal Poly. SLO is I think where it was created or started at Cal Poly. So yeah, there's just a lot of infrastructure for those folks to continue to develop.
It is a standard right now, so it will take time for people to adopt Pluto, but it's cool.
Yeah,
it is cool. I agree.
Really has some cool features. Yep, I do agree. So yep, I think that was our end of our questions. So we will move to the questions that we got from our chat box. So yep, so the very first question that I can see is what it's like in NASA and how's the work culture like over there?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I thought NASA was a tremendously interesting experience, and I think I'm super grateful to have gotten the chance to be there for as long as I was there for like 3.5 years, was on 2 different teams, met a bunch of awesome folks. I think the challenge that I have with the work culture at NASA is that, and this is just speaks to the testament of the folks who end up working there, who are incredible, but like, it's really just such long time horizons for the work that you do to actually see the light of day. Like, folks spend like, 6, 7, 8 years on some of these projects, if it's a lunar rover or if it's a, a space mission, something like that. So there's a tremendous amount of planning and lead up time to some of these missions. And I think for me as an engineer, as a person who I am today, like I need a shorter feedback loop on the work that I'm doing to know that it's making an impact. Like I can't go heads down on something for 8 years and not know whether or not it's going to have an impact. Like I just can't do that. So I think that was probably my biggest challenge. But again, I think incredible place to work, lots of really smart people. And I hope that, it continues to attract really smart people, because the work that NASA does sort of isn't replicated anywhere else. No one else is doing the work that they're doing. And if they don't have the bandwidth to do that work, then we just don't discover and do as much cool science. So it's definitely super important.
All right. So next up, we have how is work-life environment in a machine learning engineer's life?
This sounds like a bad YouTube video. Day in the life of a machine learning engineer. I think the only thing I'll note about the life of it, it's very much similar to any tech job that you have. I mean, it's nice. Life is good. I don't have any complaints. The only piece that I'll note is on a more practical level. I think folks have this idea that a machine learning engineer just sits around all day and trains machine learning models, and that is not the case. I think it's probably 10-15% of your actual work time you might spend in a given year training machine learning models, but there's a large portion of the work that you do is data analysis, understanding the results of your machine learning model, and then also preparing data for the model to work. If you don't have good data, you can't do machine learning. So I spend, a tremendous amount of my time working with the data for the machine learning problems that I'm working on, understanding the data, literally looking at it line by line, ensuring that it's the right stuff. Because if we get that wrong, it doesn't matter. All the technical stuff is irrelevant if we don't have the right data coming into the model. So that's the dirty little secret that nobody talks about in machine learning. And it's different than in academic setting. Like if you take a machine learning class, they're going to say, oh, go use the MNIST fashion data set, which is already out there. It's already been cleaned, all that stuff. And you're just going to go plug and play and do sort of the exciting, fun development work. But again, in the real world context, if you're actually doing, machine learning to solve some novel problem, the data set might not exist. All these other things might not exist. And the burden is on you as the machine learning engineer to go and do that work, which I think can actually be fun, but it's definitely not sort of the as advertised, I'm just going to train models all day and do cool machine learning stuff.
All right. That was a really good answer, actually. I mean, that's the harsh reality, like of a machine learning engineer. So yeah, let's move to the next question. That apart from all these wonderful benefits of Julia, did you get any of its disadvantages?
I think the disadvantage is less like you might be the first person to ask some specific question. And I think that, it's a disadvantage in one sense, but I think, like all disadvantages, everyone likes to flip it on its head and think about the advantage. But the advantage of that really is that you as a user or a member of the Julia community can actually make a contribution without it having to be some like extravagant, really deeply technical thing. Like I've asked 200 Julia questions on Stack Overflow. And the questions that I've asked, I'm now the, #1 ranked person to ever ask questions about Julia on Stack Overflow, which I think is super cool. And it's because of the fact that a lot of people hadn't asked these questions that I was looking up before. So there's definitely, again, a flip side to this, but 100% the sort of smaller size of the ecosystem means that you might have to do a little bit more work in some areas.
All right. Yep. So Diptenu, do you want to take the next one?
No.
Next question.
Chaita asks, like, apart from ML, can like Julia be used in other fields like web development, like server-side coding and stuff?
Yeah, 100%. So Julia again is a general purpose programming language. I think there's actually less folks using it for ML than some of these other domains. So it's again widely used across the hard sciences, physics, biology, things like that, data science, machine learning. But again, it's also used for general purpose stuff. Like I wrote a blog post, last month or something like that about using Julia for web development, for application development. So that's an interesting post that you can find online if you Google it. But yeah,
I think
definitely
there is
is
a
used in.
topic.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please go on. Please go on. I'm sorry.
No, I mean that's the end of the thought. Go ahead, look up that resource online. You can
So I think like
learn
there's a
about.
project called Genie. I checked out a few months back. I think it can be used for web development. I believe so. I
Yeah.
don't know it specifically.
Yeah, Genie is really, so I actually teach a course, I'm a teaching fellow for a course at Harvard that uses Django, which is a web development framework. And Genie is the Julia equivalent to Django. So if you've used Django before or some other Django alternative, then yeah, Genie is Julia's replacement, GENIE, like the genie that comes out of a bottle. So yeah, I think it's awesome. Very, very similar. It was really easy for me conceptually to see the similarities between Django and Genie.
So
All right.
Prakash
Yeah.
is like on a view take it, please.
Yeah, absolutely, it's fine. So Prakash is asking, is Julia in the phase where Kotlin was 5 years ago? Like, is it going to be become the official language of machine learning in your future? What are your thoughts?
I really do think that that's what Julia is set up to become in the future. I think we need a little bit more work. It probably will take something like 5 years. But if you listen to some of the conversations with the people who are leaders in the Julia ecosystem, or in the machine learning ecosystem, rather, everyone believes that Julia is going to be like Jeremy Howard, who created Fast.ai. Has said, he's a huge Julia supporter. He thinks the future of machine learning is going to be Julia. Some of the folks who lead the PyTorch teams have said this at Facebook. Some of the other just core machine learning, Jeff Dean, who leads machine learning, I don't know what specifically type of machine learning stuff at Google. He's said this before. So the people who are sort of core pillars of the ecosystem and the machine learning ecosystem believe that this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So just doing our best to make it happen faster than 5 years, but it might end up being 5 years.
Really hopes.
I get it. All right, so I will just say like, yeah, now I will just let people like, to unmute themselves, to raise their hands if they have any kind of other questions they want to ask. I mean, yeah, we will ask you to unmute and you can ask your questions directly to Logan. So, yep, anyone who want to ask questions, like you guys can just raise your hands, please. All right. Anyone want to raise hands and ask any questions? Like, yep, you can interact with him. And if you have any kind of doubts you want to clear out. Okay. So we have someone. Okay, Prakash. Fine. Yep. Go ahead, Prakash.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Hello Logan. Thank you Arnabda for giving me opportunity to ask question. I just wanted to know, Logan, that I am a beginner in the field of ML, and I just wanted to.
Prakash, I guess you just got muted.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know that I'm a beginner in ML, and I just wanted to know that in like in Python there is a package called scikit-learn. So if we don't know how to implement a model, then we can directly import like if we don't know the entire math, then also we can like directly use scikit-learn package and so on. So in Julia, is there any like particular library or framework which we can directly like? There are particular frameworks in pandas, like in Python, like pandas and NumPy. But you have mentioned that Julia comes out with all the features of Python and all that. So can you like tell us more about that, how we can do all that kind of stuff in Julia?
Yeah, Prakash, this is a good question. So on the NumPy conversation, Julia, the core language itself sort of takes care of most of the things that NumPy did. So you don't need a toolkit like NumPy. As far as pandas go, Julia has a framework called dataframes.jl, which is actually significantly faster than pandas for a lot of the common operations that you would see. So data frames replaces pandas. And then for scikit-learn, you have sort of two options. One, you could use FastAI .jl, which is the FastAI framework equivalent in Julia. So that has a bunch of the pre-built models and things like that. From a deep learning perspective, if you want just like pure machine learning and like all of the stuff that that scikit-learn provides, then you want to go with MLJ Machine Learning Julia .jl, and that has like 150 pre-built models. You can do things like random forest, linear regression, all that sort of stuff, not just traditional deep learning. So it has the whole host of machine learning stuff in there. So definitely check that out. And again, that's another Google Summer of Code project. So lots of interesting work that still needs to be done in that domain. So if folks are interested, that might be a good entry point.
All right. So by the way, one more thing, can you share to the public, to the audience, like what are the resources they can follow to so that they can get started with Julia? Like, is there like there is a YouTube channel for Julia, right? I saw that one.
Yeah, there is. So if you go to the julialang.org website, there's also there's a learning tab up at the top, and that actually breaks down sort of all of the resources that we have in the Julia ecosystem. So you could learn it through a platform called Exorcism if you want, exorcism.io if you want like one-on-one mentoring from a Julia user. You can, we have a YouTube channel. You can watch some of those. We have courses for free on Julia Academy. There's a ton of different places to find stuff. So it really depends on how you learn best. So I would check out the learning tab on the Julia Language website. It has all the details.
All right. So yep. Thanks for that. And yeah, I think someone just said, congratulations, Logan, for starting a new position as an advisor at Polywork. So yep, congrats.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. They're doing a bunch of interesting work at Polywork, so I'm excited to help them out however I can.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyone else want to ask questions? Like you guys can raise your hands. You can ask your questions directly to Logan. So yep. Apart from Prakash, anyone else, guys? Just raise your hand and feel free to ask anything, right? Even if you're a beginner, you can just ask. Like you can clear your doubts and all. So yep. Anyone?
And if no questions, happy to also answer questions offline. I know it's intimidating to ask questions in front of a bunch of people. So no worries. Feel free to shoot me again a message somewhere online, and happy to answer if folks need help getting started in the Julia ecosystem or just have other questions about Julia, machine learning, all that sort of stuff.
All right. So Niptindu, I guess you're muted, so you can ask.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think, just one more thing. I think that bring the end of this session, I guess. So thanks, Logan, for sharing your valuable time. It really means a lot. And after that, and one more small announcement I have for the audience. So yeah, we are having a social media challenge. So all the folks who are joined right now. So all you need to do is just take a screenshot of this session and post it in LinkedIn or Twitter, tag us, tag ACM, tag our community, and the person who gets the most likes and who has and just write what you feel about the session, what you have learned about the session. And yep, and we are also having some exclusive swags giveaway for this. So yep, go ahead and feel free to share your views for this session. And if you want to connect with Logan, you can definitely go and connect him on Twitter or LinkedIn. Right. So yep, and he's really very helpful, and and do follow his blog post that he shares in LinkedIn, and I think in Julia Mean official documentation also you have your blogs, right? So yep.
Yeah, this was great. I appreciate both of you for asking super insightful and interesting questions. I was coming into this and I was like, wait, I didn't prepare any like resources to share with anybody. So I was like, hopefully you guys had good questions to ask, and you totally did. So I appreciate the awesome questions. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully answering other people's questions in the future as well.
All right. So
it also, just a bit.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
starting a Julia user group Kolkata. It's like for this city, we are starting out we'll start out with a group of small Julia users who are based in Kolkata and you do some small projects and stuff. So if anyone among our participants want to join or like club or something, you can just text me or Arnav for
yeah.
joining that.
So yeah, just want to tell you, Logan, like we have started among ourselves that Julia user group Kolkata. So yeah, we are having some few bunch of people who are using Julia in their day-to-day life projects. So yeah, and I would highly recommend folks who are there so to join our community, and like we'll be building some good, amazing projects together and learn as well. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Really, really quickly, we're just to give a little sneak peek to everyone who's here. We're actually starting a Julia campus advocate program. So that could be really interesting for folks who are still in school. If you want to sort of lead your campus's sort of chapter of folks who are interested in Julia, that program will hopefully be coming out sometime later in 2022. So stay tuned if that's of interest to you.
All right, that sounded great. Yeah, I think Shantan raised his hand. So yep, Shantan, you want to ask something?
Not
Go ahead.
exactly asked, but I was hoping that maybe since we are starting out the Julia user group Kolkata, maybe if Logan has the time, maybe he can like mentor us for like some things and stuff. I was just saying that it would be really helpful for us, actually.
Yeah, time is a fleeting resource these days, but happy to help out however I can. If it's yeah, totally feel free to send me the ask, and happy to answer questions. The other cool part is, honestly, I think folks in the general Julia community are very open and helpful. So you'll find a lot more. You'll find a lot of folks who are sort of willing to jump in and be helpful. So yeah, it's not just me. There's lots of other good resources out there as well. But totally happy to help.
All right. So yep, I think that brings the end of this session. So yep, once again, thank you, Logan. So yep, and also thanks to everyone who have joined the session. And yep, thank you for your valuable time. And I think with that we can end this session. All right. So thanks a lot. So I'm just stopping the recording. So goodbye, guys. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.